did not squabble to shed blood at the slightest provocation. And we know that from two different historians, Philo of Alexandria and Josephus, and there's a third one. In fact, Philo has a mission to guess where they actually removed Pontius Pilate because he was so atrocious and so brutal, which is something for the Romans. In any case, other governors came, and you can read that. Josephus is even though he's trying to curry favor with the Romans, he's pretty straightforward about that. He says the governors just tried to whip the people into uprising. And Nero put the last governors in, and Nero had a real thing for some reason. He wanted to be a god, and he was living on that. So things got really bad under his reign. And the governors were worse and worse and worse, and finally the people were driven to revolt in 66. But I want to tell you, the first thing they did was kill all the high priests who they saw as collaborators, and burn the debt records, and then burn all the Herodian palaces. So I have to tell you that the picture of the Jews in the New Testament as represented by the class you're seeing is totally inaccurate. Because the fact of the matter is, the Jews hated that class as much or more than anyone else. And the moment they got a chance to overturn it, they went and did so. And this was a popular uprising that swept across the whole country. The high priests were put in power by the Roman Herodian governors. So I don't want to get into who's responsible for what or whether what occurred, but the point is that the Jews hated all these people as much or more than anyone else. And this is not the way things are portrayed. These are portrayed as legitimate representatives of the Jewish people. And that, for a start, is just absolutely wrong. It's just wrong. Herod is presented as a Jewish king. That's absolutely wrong. He killed all the Jewish kings. Anyway, be that as it may, the Jews lost this war. And they lost the next one, too. And they were, considered really troublesome by that point by the Romans. And at that point, they were basically expelled from what we call Palestine now. And the Romans renamed this province Palestina, which is where I began. And the Jews were seen from that moment as having surrendered to the Roman Empire, in particular as having surrendered to Caesar, which is why those Judeo-Capta coins are so important. So, the next 1,600 years of European history has to do with the fact that the Jews are looked upon as the serfs of the successors to Caesar. Insofar as all these kings in the Western Europe, Charlemagne and all the others, saw themselves as the second Holy Roman Empire and so on and so forth, as successor to the Roman emperors and so on, they saw the Jews as having surrendered to them as well. And there were certain restrictions put upon the Jews that we'll cover next time in the Christian period, when the Christians basically took over the Roman Empire after Constantine in the 300. Restrictions having to do with not being able to own land, not being able to serve in the army, not being being basically, as I said, serfs of the crown, so the money they made could be taxed directly to the royal authorities, so that the Jews could be used as a kind of sop or sponge to soak up money from the people, so that the aristocratic classes could in fact benefit from this kind of situation and wouldn't be blamed. So the Jews were not allowed to participate in the trade guilds. They were not allowed to be artisans. And so they were forced more and more into these reprobate trades. And what we'll get is, in Eastern Europe, basically they were rag pickers, which is why so many Jews ended up in the tailoring business. When the Jews came to America, they were all sort of, traveling salesmen, rag picker sort of people, who then ended up owning, covered wagons with goods, dry goods, and tailoring activities. So ultimately then they started their covered wagons then became department stores. So then it became Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Goldwater's, you name it. Every big city in America has a Jewish department store sitting in the middle of it. I forget what the one is in Columbus, Ohio. I used to know the name of it. But everyone, Goldwater is a convert from Judaism. He's in Arizona. And over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's the weird thing. And then, of course, finally, Levi's trousers out at the time of the gold rush in San Francisco because they were in dry goods. That was the only profession that had been open to them. And so they made the trousers for the guys who were digging the gold, and now I guess 3/4 of you are wearing Levi's trousers. Anyway, we'll stop there. Pick up there next time. You start reading Mendelssohn. He's going to try to get the Jews on the right track again in the 1700s. But we'll pick up a little bit before that, and we'll deal with the book situation next time. Okay? Hopefully I didn't keep you too long. I'll turn this thing off. Wait. Let me get this thing off if I can.